So in this video we're going to have a look at the 1987 vampire film directed by Joel Schumacher, The Lost Boys. So the story follows the Emerson family, mother Lucy, who's recently divorced, and her sons Michael and Sam, moving from Phoenix, Arizona to Santa Carla, California, to live with the slightly eccentric taxidermist grandpa. The boys start hanging out at the boardwalk on a night, as it's a resort town, so there's fairgrounds and attractions going on, and Michael catches an eye of this girl and he's trying to get her attention. At this point as well, Lucy's trying to find a job and she befriends the local video store owner Max, who sees her act of kindness when her boy's lost and offers her a job in his video store. At the beginning it states that Santa Carla is the murder capital of the USA and there's missing posters everywhere, and at one point you see the wife of the security guard putting a poster up of her missing husband who you saw get murdered right at the beginning of the film. So Michael finally speaks to the girl at the resort and he finds out that she's presumably seen the head of the biker gang, David. Now he goads Michael into racing them on the motorbikes, and Michael says he'll never be able to beat him with his bike, and he just says he needs to keep up with him. They get into an altercation and they finally head back to their lair, which is a disused resort that fell into the sea during an earthquake years before. Now at this point they're messing with Michael, giving him Chinese food, saying that it's maggots, and when he's eating it it's really rice and worms for noodles, and then they encourage him to drink this, which he believes is wine but it's actually blood, and ride out to the railway bridge where they're hanging on, telling them to drop. He finally does this to become one of them. He then wakes up in his house, not realising how much time has passed. At this point his little brother Sam is becoming more and more concerned with Michael's behaviour, and at one point his dog Nanook protects him when he goes to attack him while he's in the bath. He gets help from the Frog Brothers, who own the comic store in Santa Carla, who gave him a comic when he first moved there, one about vampires, and they believe that Max, who owns a video store, might be the head vampire. Now when he's invited to dinner they do some tests by putting lots of garlic in the parmesan and spilling holy water on him, which doesn't work at all, so they don't believe that now Max is the head vampire. At this point as well, David's trying to get Michael to do his first kill. They ambush a party on the beach and they start killing them, and David's goading Michael to join in, and his face turns into a vampire, but he does his best to resist it, and when he gets home he asks Sam for help and they get the Frog Brothers in. They drive to the vampire's lair during the day, taking the grandpa's car without asking, and they manage to kill some of the vampires while they're sleeping, but not David, the head vampire, and he says he'll get him later. So when they get back to the house they're preparing for the evening. They're going to church and get holy water, and they prepare by chopping up loads of bags of garlic and putting holy water in the bath, putting water pistols full of holy water, and they wait for the vampire's arrival. Now it's quite successful when they do arrive. They manage to beat off most of the vampires with the holy water, and Michael and David have a final showdown where they're fighting downstairs, and Michael manages to impale David on some antlers that his grandpa was doing the taxidermy project on. At this point though, Michael, Star and Laddie have not turned back into the normal form, so they realise David wasn't the head vampire. Now at this point Max and Lucy return and see all the carnage that's happened, and Max confesses that he is the lead vampire. He found Lucy because she was so kind and the boys needed a mother, so at this point he threatens to kill Sam unless Lucy joins them, and Lucy's reluctantly about to join him when Grandpa fires through the house and stakes Max, stating that the only thing about Santa Carla was all the vampires, so Grandpa knew all along. And at this point Michael, Star and Laddie both turned normal and were no longer vampires. and that's how the film ends. So the film starred Jason Patric as Michael and Corey Haim as Sam. Keefer Sutherland played David, with Corey Feldman as Edgar Frog and Jameson Newlander as Alan Frog. The late Edward Herrmann played Max, and Diana West played Lucy. And Alex Winter from Bill and Ted plays one of the vampires, but he doesn't really have a speaking part. I think he says about 3 or 4 lines in the entire film. Just some facts about the Lost Boys as well. The filming of the entire film took 3 weeks, but it's scene where the arrow gets shot through there and he hits the eye and gets electrocuted. That took 2 whole weeks to film. So, and it's a 30-second death, and the rest of the film took 3 weeks to film and 2 weeks for that one. So I thought that was quite interesting. And Keefer Sutherland broke his arm doing the motorcycle scenes, so he's wearing black gloves all the way through the film to hide a cast that he had for breaking his arm. And this was also the first movie that Corey Haim and Corey Feldman starred in together. They'd go on to star in many films together and become the 2 Coreys. And Corey Haim put on record that it was the best time of his professional life making The Lost Boys. He really enjoyed the experience, and he sadly passed away and he was well missed. The film also started the phrase "vamped out," which went on to in many episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and other films as well, but the first ever reference of it was in The Lost Boys. But many of the places filmed in The Lost Boys are not there anymore because they were destroyed in the 1989 earthquake that hit the Los Angeles, the fairground bit, and also the bandstand where the famous Timmy Capello scene. It's not there anymore, it's been levelled to the ground. There's a sequence at the beginning with the merry-go-round, and it foreshadows how the vampires die, because as they walk on the merry-go-round, it's the order of how they die in the film. I thought that was quite cool. If you watch it, you'll know which one dies in order. Hopefully there'll be no spoilers. I mean, this is a classic. It came out over 30 years ago, so hopefully you've all seen it by now. And there's some really cool bits as well, like about Grandpa knowing that there were vampires all along. Like there's one bit where when Max is in the house and Grandpa sees him, he shuts the door of his office so that he won't be able to come unless he's invited. I thought that was a nice little touch. And also when he drives through the house, he's got the stakes on his car, knowing that he intentionally drove through the house on purpose. I thought that was really cool. Also, 2013 vampire film What We Do in the Shadows, where they used that famous Lost Boys scene where he's eating maggots instead of rice, and they put that in the film as well as a Lost Boys reference, and they also mentioned that they got it from Lost Boys. I thought that was a really funny touch as well that they did that. The film has an amazing soundtrack as well. It's really iconic. There's a lot of really good songs in there. Obviously the main song Cry Little Sister, which was written for the movie, apparently. When it was written, he didn't see the film at all. He was just told the plot and he wrote the song for it, but it fits so well. I mean, it's nearly as iconic as the film itself. You put them both together, and I just love the song. It's amazing. And also the Echo and the Bunnymen cover of People Estranged by the Doors as well. I just love this version. It's nearly as good as the original Doors version, so I really like that one. And also Timmy Capello's version of I Still Believe, where he's playing a saxophone with no top on, and people are moshing to a saxophone solo. I think that's a little bit unbelievable. I've never known anyone who's moshed to a saxophone solo, but I think that might just me. This is a fantastic vampire film that have brought vampires back to the modern age and made them trendy again. It's not like there's nothing against them. The Hammer horror vampires like Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, which are fantastic, but it didn't resonate to the younger audience, and I think it brought them back in and made vampires really cool again, like with the punk vampires and trendy vampires. It made them really cool again, and it resonated to a younger audience. I think was really good how they did it that way, and it is one of the most iconic films of the 1980s. It's just brilliant. It's one of my top 10 films of all time, but it's definitely my favourite vampire film, but it's one of the best films of all time. I could watch it again and again and still really enjoy it. So yeah, this is one of my favourite films, and I really wanted to review it, but I hope I've done it justice with the review as well, because it's such a fantastic film. Okay, so that's it from for me today. I hope you enjoyed this review and got something out of it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you thought of it, any other films that you from the 80s or any decade that you want to have a look at, and also what you thought of The Lost Boys. You like or dislike about it, let me know. And yeah, hope to see you soon in another video.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.